Everybody good?
Yeah.
All right, guys, we'll go ahead and get started. As always, thanks for coming. We'll just review the Maryland game and get into Northwestern fairly quickly, and then answer any questions you guys have. Obviously, disappointed about the loss last Saturday. Really feel bad for our players. These guys have worked really hard, and I feel like they deserve a win, and we didn't get one. And we're going to keep working so hard to get that done. But really feel bad for them and all the effort that they put in, and the attitude that they continue to bring every single day. Just a couple of things about the game offensively. Like I mentioned this after the game, we've got to really try to establish an identity of who we are and what we can do and get good at something. It's been kind of a spin the dial a little bit with the O-line and tight end lineup, and we got to get consistent, one with our lineup. Barring injuries, if there's only so many things we can do, but we have to try to get consistent with what we do with the lineup and consistent with the plays so we can develop some guys and get better at something. Too many turnovers again. We've got to protect the football, and again, it's not just the quarterback. I know a lot of people want to blame the quarterback. There are some things that the quarterback does need to do better, needs to make some better reads, but there are some other things within the offense that we have to do better also to help the quarterback out. And it starts with running the ball. To be able to help the quarterback out, we've got to establish a run game and run the ball better. We have not been able to do that consistently late in the game. I know we had some run game production, and very excited about Isaiah Pacheco going out there and running like he did late in the game. But we need to start the game off doing those things to help sustain drives, get first downs, and help take some stress off of the quarterback, and opens up play actions and things down the field. We are not able to do that consistently enough. And again, it's all 11 guys that need to work together, with some issues on the O-line, blocking at the tight end, whether it's blocking at the wide receiver position. We've got to get some things fixed, and we've got to get them fixed in a hurry so we can have some more consistency on offense and sustain drives and score some points, because in college football, if you can't score points, it's really hard to win, and we need to do that. Defensively, as you guys know, I'm a defensive guy. I've always been somewhat involved with coaching meetings on the defensive side of the ball. Was much more involved last week and will continue to be so in terms of running player meetings and being involved with some of the game day play calling. Did that here this last week, and we'll continue to do that in an effort to try to get us where we need to defensively. Biggest reason, we've had too many mistakes, and again, I'm not in the player meetings. I have not been until last week, and I want to know what the mistakes are. And try to get them fixed. And I think we did solve some. We weren't great. We had a couple on Saturday that cost us 14 points, in my opinion. But I can tell you this from a defensive standpoint, I was really pleased with the attitude and the effort of our players. It was evident in that game that we were going to struggle offensively after about the first quarter. And it's easy, human nature is for guys to get down. They didn't. They really fought hard and had a great attitude every time they took the field. Unfortunately, we had 3 drives that started inside, deep in our own territory, inside the 35-yard line, and we gave up points on each of those drives. We had 2 mistakes, in my opinion, that I wish we could take back. And outside of those 2 mistakes, I thought we played some pretty good defensive football. The first touchdown, we had a mistake, let the ball get out the gate. It was on a corner blitz. Went through the B gap, and we had a B gap guy there who just hung up on the guard too much and went through the B gap. And then when they got the ball on the 35-yard line after an interception, we had them 3rd and 19. We called a pressure. We had a mistake. Let the quarterback get out of the pocket. Allowed a receiver to scramble around and get open, and went for a touchdown. So we basically gave 14 points up with mistakes that we can't have. But I thought overall we improved in a lot of snaps in that game. Our guys again had a great attitude, great effort, and there were a lot of positive things to build off of. Special teams wise. I think Adam Corsack continues to do well in our punt game. Our young gunners, we're out there with 2, sometimes 3 true freshmen at gunner. On our punt team, we've had some issues with those guys earlier in the season, but they showed up and made some plays, especially Kassan Abraham and Zaire Lacewell on Saturday did some outstanding things that we can build on. Biggest issues, we lost a possession on the kickoff return. You guys know, you saw the play, the ball was kicked into the wind, it was held up, it hit the 20-yard line. And got a great bounce for them, went right into one of their kickoff coverage guys and recovered it, put us in a negative situation. Thankfully, defensively, went out and held them to a field goal in that situation, but we can't lose a possession on special teams, no matter what the wind conditions are in that situation. We've been on that end of it ourselves in the past. Last year at Penn State, we were able to recover, a kickoff in that game, for the same similar reasons. But we've got to do a better job with that. As we look forward to Northwestern, we're excited about Northwestern coming to town for homecoming. I haven't coached against Northwestern since 2010. I've coached against most teams in the Big Ten, but that's one I haven't for quite some time. Quarterback Clayton Dorson's playing at a very high level. I remember Clayton out of high school. I recruited him when I was at Wisconsin, and you could tell then he was going to be a very good college football player. But they're throwing the ball around a lot and have a lot of success doing it. Defensively, they're always sound, they're always tough, they've always got good fundamentals, and that is no different here this year. And in special teams, I think they're very well coached. I just think the program that Coach Pat Fitzgerald has built there, it's a model of consistency. They got a consistent culture, consistent staff, and they do business pretty much the same way. When you look back through the years, it's pretty much the same style, and that's why they have success. So with that, I'll go ahead and open up for questions.
I asked after the game about Art. Is he still the guy? Do you have to evaluate the quarterback?
Yeah, no, Art will still be our quarterback. He's got to play better. In our offense, he's got to play better. But like I mentioned before, Art is a guy that's got a tremendous amount of talent. The week before, he threw for 270 yards or close to it. He had a bad outing, and that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to change the quarterback. We need him to play like he did the week before.
Were you disappointed by the staggering offensive numbers? How bad they are. I mean, you're struggling to still find an offensive identity. It's midway through year 3. Are you disappointed in just where you're at?
Absolutely. We've got to score points. Stats are one thing, but you got to score points, and we're not doing that. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but we're not doing it. We are young. You mentioned that a lot. At wideout, again, everybody that plays is pretty much a first or second year player. When Jerome Washington is not in there, it's the same way at tight end. Jonah Jackson didn't play Saturday. Tariq Cole got taken out of the game at one point Saturday. So we're fairly young on the offensive line. Those aren't excuses for some of the issues that come up on offense, but yeah, absolutely, disappointed. We all are about where we're at offensively.
Chris, just to clarify, are you calling all the defensive plays or just some of them?
I called some on Saturday. It's just in an effort to try to help out and create some, no different than I talked about before with Gio and Art, a quarterback, just trying to help generate something different defensively.
And I guess why now? I mean,
because if you look at the struggles that we've had here in the last few weeks.
But you've lost 6 straight games. You've struggled defensively in 5 of them. I just was wondering why it didn't happen a couple weeks ago. Why?
Well, because I think the performance of the defense gets lost in the final outcome. We play a lot of really good snaps defensively. The issue is we have 4 or 5 plays that continue to jump up and bite us. And the effort has been to try to eliminate those few plays and find out why they continue to happen. Well, it's one player here, it's one unit here, it's nothing consistent, it's something different. So, just trying to bring the whole group together and meet together, install together, try to have common language together. That's really what it's about, to try to find a way to eliminate some of those few plays. But since the Kansas game, I think at Buffalo, really since the Buffalo game, we had a few blown coverages that really hurt us. We played some pretty good snaps of defensive football, but it's the few plays that are explosive plays that go for touchdowns. And like I said, Illinois, it was 4 plays for 200 yards. Saturday, it was 4 plays that were 180-some yards. We have to eliminate those things, and that's what we're focused on, we're trying to do.
You mentioned Kansas and Buffalo. Was there a game or an instance that finally compelled you to take over more of the defensive stuff?
No, I mean, it's been a group effort to try to solve the problem. Some of it is, we've talked about, guys, it's the lack of depth. Guys get mentally fatigued and physically fatigued, and obviously that contributes to guys potentially losing focus or having a mental error. But it's just an effort to try to get something positive built and make sure that we're all on the same page.
You mentioned Pacheco. Is there a chance now that he gets an even more upgraded role in the offense earlier in the game?
Absolutely. We tell players all the time, it's regardless of the position, when you do get an opportunity, if you take advantage of it, it creates more opportunities. Obviously Saturday, he got an opportunity. He took advantage of the opportunity. He had some pretty good production, and really pleased with what he did, and obviously that helps create more opportunities for him.
With Jonathan working with the tight ends, do you at all consider his redshirt status when you're deciding to put him into a game? He had played 2 games, and you put him in late in the fourth quarter. He's at 3. He's got 1 left. Does that come into account whenever you're?
Oh, absolutely. You know, he's got another game he can still play and still redshirt, and you know, we will have conversations about you know, what his role is going to be, and if it's a role that can help us, or if it's one that we need to try to redshirt him. So absolutely, we have those conversations about all those players that are in that 3 to 4 game area right now.
Chris, looking back on the 8 disciplined players during the summer, did you downplay the significance of it at the time? I understand you're trying to put a positive spin, saying that, you know, it's not going to have an effect, when in reality, you're talking 10% of your scholarship players. Did you downplay it, and just can you look back, trace some of the troubles that you're having now defensively to not having those 8 guys?
Well, anytime you lose that number of guys, it hurts. I felt like if it wasn't going to necessarily hurt us, there were a few things that had to happen. 1, we had to stay healthy, and 2, some really young players had to develop to help us out. Neither one of those necessarily has happened. We have had some injuries. There are some younger players that I think are going to be good players, but may not be able to help us win games right at this moment. So, you know, you look back on it, I knew there was a chance it would hurt us if things didn't go perfect. Things haven't gone perfect, so yes, it's hurt us.
You mentioned the offensive identity. I understand that every week you're doing everything you can to win the game, but at some point, do you maybe just have to stick with what the offense you want it to look like and try to just build off of that going forward, even if it might hinder you day to day the rest of the season?
Absolutely. You know, when you talk about an identity, that's exactly, you know, what you talk about. There's always going to be a base of what you do offensively, defensively, special teams wise, and then you branch off from there as long as it you know, fits into your overall philosophy and it fits with your personnel. And that's really important that you do that. You know, you try to get good at something that you say, hey, this is what we hang our hat on, and then you've got your tricks, your gadgets, your extras, so to speak, that come off of it. And that's what we need to try to make sure we do is get good at something.
Okay. Oh, you mentioned homecoming. A lot of, you know, important people here at Rutgers, a lot of fans here. Is there pressure for you guys to finally put it together and give a representative?
There's pressure every week. I mean, there's pressure every day. It's, what is this, week 8 we're going on now? There's pressure in week 1. There's pressure in the first day of spring ball. And that's the pressure we put on ourselves. There's nobody outside of this program putting more pressure, you know, on me or anybody in this program to try to go out and perform and be the best that we can be.
You mentioned that it's not all our fault, but I mean, you have young wide receivers, you have, you know, offensive line issues or whatever. But does Art take too much of the blame sometimes, where you know, the layman fan or the person who's watching it, you know, I know it's nature to be blame the quarterback, but does he take too much of the blame? How much can you pinpoint on him?
Well, it is the nature of the position, and it's like anything else. And we've talked a lot about this together. Art and I have. Like when you sign to go to school here, everybody's excited. Everybody is excited about the anticipation of your first start and playing and, you know, that stuff, which is great. It feels good, but you also have to take the bad with that too. You know, if you don't play well, there's going to be the criticism's going to come, and I get it from a fan perspective. You know, the quarterback is a position that is highly scrutinized. When your offense doesn't play well or you have turnovers, that's who everybody looks to. That's part of it, and I think Art understands that. It is a little more difficult as a young player, you know, probably to handle it and deal with it, but he understands it. And again, it's called team offense. All 11 players have to do their job consistently, and you know, we've got to find a way to get that done.
When talking about recruits, you know, during the week, do you talk to them a little more? Do you change your message? How do you kind of approach that after these losses?
I talk to recruits all the time, and you know, the messages, like we talked before, it's the same message. We are building a program. We have a plan. We have a vision. We've got young players that are going to play, and it's going to take time for those young players to be developed. I said this when I got here, guys. How do you build a program? It takes time for guys to be in your system for 3 to 4 or even 5 years to get the player development. We're not there. We've had some players now that are in their 3rd year here. Unfortunately, we don't have a ton of them. You know, and we got young players on offense that the more that they're doing the same thing, strength and conditioning wise, fundamentally, schematically, we're on the 3rd offensive coordinator here, unfortunately. I wish I could go back and change that, but we can't. It is what it is. Players need to be developed, and we've talked to the recruits about that a bunch, and most of them get it.
Final question?
You talked about your frustration level the other day, and I'm sure you're not naive to like, the stuff at the fan base and everything else outside. But are you steadfast in your belief that you're going to be able to get this done? And if so, why? Like what
Oh, absolutely. I mean, guys, again, I think Sarge, you and I probably had a conversation about this before, if you remember. I'm not trying to answer your question with a question, but when I first got here, we have a conversation. Probably, how many years did you say this would take?
I don't want to answer.
But you know what I'm talking about.
I'm aware.
I'm completely I'm frustrated with some of the things that happen on game day right now. I don't have necessarily an answer for some of the things that continue to happen to us. I've mentioned a lot about good practice. We've had some really good practices. Maybe we should have some bad ones that might change it, what Saturday looks like. I don't know, but for whatever reason, we've had some issues come up on Saturday. Guys, we are trying to address everything that happens, from turnovers to special teams to running the ball, stopping the run. We go out to practice with the plan to try to work on the things that we need to work on. But I have nothing but 100% confidence and faith that our plan will work. Right now, it may not look like that. It's faith without results. But we've got a bunch of young players. We really have had two really solid recruiting classes, and I think when you look at the guys that are playing, that's an indication of that, because a lot of those guys are playing. We need to get another one. We need to get another one. We need to have guys in the program for 3 or 4 years. That's the plan that I've had since I've been here.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, thank you, guys.